Robbie Moore.
Yeah, thank you. And just building on the same narrative that's kindly been set by Chris to do with KPIs. Chris is right to point out that your contract to deliver air services, which is predominantly the 24-hour helpline and online web chat, has increased from 229 million by about 41% to 385 million. Money that is coming from the Home Office to you as an organisation to deliver services against set KPIs. But yet, reading the KPIs, very few are even being met. Why is that?
I would dispute the very few are met. So we're achieving 76% of the KPIs in 2024. However, we do need to improve. The reason they're not being met is the KPIs were set up for a system in 2019 that's vastly different to what we're seeing now. So a hugely increased number of people arriving. The telephone lines are increasingly busy, and for complex cases that we didn't have before, mental health issues, for example, are very predominant. In addition, there was at one point the use of nearly 400, just over 400 hotels, and there's still 200 hotels in place. We have teams in initial accommodation in different parts of the country that would typically see somebody as soon as they arrived, provide them with an induction, provide them with an ASF1 form, and be there in that first initial period where they could come and ask questions. A lot of that is remote with the people in 200 hotels across the country, which means they need to call in a lot more than ever envisaged in the system, and they may not find it as easy to navigate the system when they can't just drop down to our office and ask a question. So that has made some of the KPIs more challenging, and we're not in the hotels.
Okay, but this is a huge amount of taxpayers' money that is being given to you as an organisation, and one of those KPIs to do with KPI 4A and 4B, which is in relation to answering phone calls. So this is a system that's set up by that is to help those that are the most vulnerable, but yet the Home Office relaxed the KPI, right, from the phones having to be answered within a minute to every 10 minutes, but yet you have failed consistently to meet that KPI, despite it being relaxed.
It's no longer relaxed. It was relaxed for a period. It is back to a minute.
And have you met that KPI yet?
We haven't yet met that KPI yet, but our average wait time is a minute on...
A minute and 4 seconds, yeah.
On the FRC helpline. So we've substantially reduced the wait time, and that is with new systems, new telephone lines, and people on the phones.
Another KPI was for submitting change of circumstances forms for asylum seekers in time that has been missed in most months. Why is that?
That's KPI 7B. That was missed for a short period of time. It's certainly been compliant for at least the last 6 months. I think the pressure there is the volumes in the system and people that are experiencing, so as it says, a change in circumstances. We complete somebody's eligibility form, an asylum support form, with everybody when they arrive into the asylum supported system. We're obliged to do that usually within the first 5 days of arrival. That is exceptionally challenging because that was envisaged at the start of the contract that we would be co-located with those clients and people would be moved through initial accommodation. Now they're in hotels spread across the whole of the UK where we don't have a presence, and we rely very heavily on the accommodation providers to support with that and helping us to facilitate that access. And it just remains particularly challenging that we might have completed that asylum support form a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, and people's circumstances are changing because of being in that contingency accommodation for such prolonged periods of time, and that then drives, changes to people's circumstances as needing to advocate on their behalf around different accommodation needs, health requirements, and as a result of the pressures in the system, it just drives that volume somewhere else. And we have responded now. We are now compliant with that KPI, but we did have a period of time, a number of months, where it was challenging.
Does the same reasoning apply to the fact of more than 1,300 failures to provide an induction service to new arrivals within required timeframes?
We did provide inductions. We do provide inductions. Again, the KPI isn't based on the quality of the service that we provide. It's purely based on the time frame that we've done that in. And doing that within 5 days for new arrivals when they're in a hotel and might not have a telephone and where we're not co-located is exceptionally challenging. So we are inducting everybody. We are supporting everybody to complete asylum support form. And volumes are, exceptionally high. We're completing, for just the clients in initial accommodation, we're completing over 4,000 a month at the moment, but sometimes there are delays with that. But what we did do, as a result of COVID, and again trying to make sure that vital information goes to a client at the earliest stage, so people understand the system, the process, how to make contact with us. We produced a lot of additional literature, sort of 2022. It's pictorial, it's translated into the top languages, and that's distributed to all of the accommodation providers and is in each of those hotel locations.
What would you say to the likes of others that we've taken evidence from, like Refugee Action, who have described the service provided by yourselves as a system fraught with delays, or Freedom of Torture, a charity that supports asylum seekers who have been victims of torture, describing the services that you provide as extremely variable responses from Migrant Help, and sometimes cases are not even responded to for days, if not weeks. Is that something that you would agree with in terms of their analysis?
I think there have been challenges and there have been delays, and we're very open about that. Certainly from the KPI regime, we are paying service credits on a monthly basis if that performance has fallen short. I think what I would say though is there is still a lot of misinformation around the air contract and what we do. And if I could just very quickly touch on the customer sort of satisfaction surveys, I think we score pretty well, around 84% at the moment. We average around 1,000 responses a month, so it's a reasonable sort of benchmark. But actually, when you delve deeper into those results of why people are unhappy with the service that we provide, none of the issues are things that we can control. It's people that are frustrated with being in a hotel for prolonged periods of time and not being moved through the system. It's people that are frustrated because their payments are not going through on time. It's people that are frustrated because they haven't got a HC2 form. We can support people to log those issues and report them to where they need to go, but we don't control any of that. We're not decision makers, we are simply a reporting function, and people are frustrated, and often that's directed at Migrant Help because we are the reporting function, but we can't fix those issues. That's not the design of the contract.
And just finally, Chair, the point that I'm just wanting to make is the amount of money that is going to your organisation from the taxpayer has increased from 229 million to 385 million, a 41% increase, despite all of those KPIs and those challenges that I've referenced.
Yeah.
Should we be considering Migrant Help as an organisation that is fit for purpose?
I absolutely would say yes. We have a huge amount of exceptionally dedicated individuals that are working tirelessly every day to support our clients, many of whom have got lived experience. We are constantly trying to evolve and grow and develop. There's been significant investment from a technology perspective to make sure our systems are robust and future-proof. And what I would say is we're not a for-profit organisation. We don't have shareholders, and certainly up to this point in the contract, we've paid out, and we've not had the opportunity to talk about it yet, so maybe we will, 2.6 million back into the sector, supporting small grassroots organisations that are really making a difference every day to our clients, and we're working sort of really hard to do that. Right now in Birmingham, we have our annual sector conference where we've got around 150 representatives across the voluntary and community sector, where we bring them together, we're sharing best practice and we're providing those networking opportunities, and there's so much good work happening as a result of us having the contract that absolutely I would say I'm confident.